How's it going? I'm Ryan with Front End Audio, and this is the brand new 1977 channel strip from Drawmer. They were cool enough to send us one so that we could check it out before it's released, and I have to say we're mighty impressed with it. And as somebody who owns and loves Drawmer gear, I am thrilled to be able to bring you this first look at it. Of course, being part of the 1970 series, this is solid-state FET-based, and it's got a lot to offer. So let's go ahead and dive into it. First, starting on the rear of the unit, where you will see that you have XLR inputs for microphone and line level. You can have both of these connected simultaneously because you select your input on a front switch. Next to that, you have your direct output for the microphone over XLR, and this is going to be immediately after the gain stage of the microphone preamp, so nice, clean, musical. You get the preamp, and that's all you get. After that, you will see your 1/4 inch input. This is the sidechain input for your compressor, and next to that is your XLR output. This is your main output after the entirety of the channel strip signal chain. And of course, you have your IEC plug and fuse tray, as well as your power switch. Now, looking on the face of the unit, this is where we get into the deep dive. First, here on the left, let's zoom in and look at the microphone preamp. This is very similar to the preamp that you will see on their 1972 dual channel preamp. You have your input gain right here. You hear that? It's stepped. You gotta love step switches, they're very accurate. So that's a nice feature. Next to that, you have your phase flip, and that will of course invert your phase 180 degrees. Next to that, you have your completely variable dial, and this is a high pass filter which can be engaged or bypassed, and it runs from 16 hertz all the way to 130 hertz. You know me, I've said it many times, I do not record without a high pass filter, so I love the fact that they included that on this preamp section. At the bottom here, you have two TS 1/4 inch jacks. One is your instrument input, and your other is your instrument DI through. So of course you can run, say, a bass guitar into here and then still run out to the amp to mic that. And then over here you have your input switch, where you can switch between instrument, line, and then you have 3 different impedances on the mic preamp. You have 2.4 thousand ohms, so 2,400 ohms. You have 600 ohms, 200 ohms, and then when you switch to phantom power, it sets the preamp at 600 ohms. Again, just like the 1972. Then we get to the EQ section. This is a 3-band parametric EQ, and you can of course engage or bypass it. You have a low band, mid band, and a high band where you can boost and cut up to 12 dB. With the mid band, you have a variable Q, and then with your low and high band, you have stepped from 6 dB to peak on the low end and 6 to 12 on the top end. Below that is your compressor. You have your threshold, your ratio, your attack, makeup gain, all that good stuff. You can engage or disengage the compressor. But one thing that's really neat is you'll see this switch right here. And what that does is, well, as you can see, you can switch the order in which the compressor and EQ goes. Whether you want to EQ before compression or, as I do, EQ after compression. So that's a very cool feature that this has that makes it even more powerful and flexible, whether you are using it as a channel strip during recording or just using this section while you are processing pre-recorded material. Then you'll see your saturation circuit there. You have your high pass and low pass, which will roll off your top and your bottom end, depending on if you have one or both engaged. And then you have your dial for selecting how much dialing in is variable, dialing in how much saturation you want, from subtle all the way to outright distortion. The cool thing is on this beautiful backlit VU meter here, which gives you a nice representation of what you're doing. You can see, well, you can't see here, we'll put in some B-roll where you'll be able to see where there's red LEDs on the left and right side of the VU meter. So the more saturation you put, the brighter those LEDs get. And it's just a nice visual representation of what's going on. And you'll see that you have next to that parallel processing. So you can dial in how much wet or dry signal you have in that balance on the compression and really get a lot of character. And that's the cool thing about how flexible this and tonally shaping this compression section is, because you have the compressor, you have the different modes of the compressor, you have the saturation circuit with the filters, and then you have the parallel blending. So that alone has a lot of tonal shaping characteristics and capabilities, but then you have the EQ on top of that, and whether you're going to EQ before or after the compression, saturation, parallel processing is just very cool. And then we get to one of my favorite things about this. Right here you have a fader, and that's basically your output trim, right? So you can adjust if you're coming in a little hot clipping your converters, you can adjust that, or if you need a little bit more on the way in, or say you're driving something after the fact, right? Let's say you have some other processor and you want to just drive it. Maybe you're stacking the FET-based compressor with an optical compressor and doing that, FET optical combo for vocals, and you want to drive that optical compressor a little bit more. And then here, you'll see this direct output switch. That's really cool. When you click it in, you'll see the red light that lets you know, because this is probably more so for A/B monitoring, because what that's going to do is when you have it engaged, it is going to bypass the center section and basically create the main output of this into a direct output of the microphone preamp. It's still going through this section. It's not like but it's a bypass, right? So you can actually sit there and make your adjustments. You may, okay, this is what the guitar sounds like, and that's how it sounds like after I processed it. And you can sit there and switch back and forth. And then with the red LED, obviously, if you're using this section to process your audio, you don't want to record with this in bypass. So seeing that red LED is a nice indicator that, hey, this is active. Whereas if it was green, you might not pay attention to it as much as, say, over here, where this means, hey, this is what's going on, right? So it's a very cool channel strip in the fact that it offers so much power. It is very musical. It is hi-fi. You're going to have plenty of top end, plenty of bottom end, plenty of mid-range. It's not lacking in anything. It's not overhyped in anywhere. It's not scooped in anywhere. Very hi-fi, very punchy. It has just that classic kind of 70s FET vibe. And there's just so much you can do with it. And it's not something that pigeonholes itself into being, oh, you can only use this for vocals. No, this is extremely useful for instruments. Okay, whether you're doing a bass guitar, clean guitar, acoustic, electric, distorted electric, vocals, get a couple of these and do, drum overheads or pianos or whatnot. But very, very cool box. Again, we are thrilled to be able to give you a first look at this. And this is just another one that I think that should find, two of these should find a place in almost everybody's studio. That is the Drawmer 1977. For more information on this killer channel strip, all the great products brought to you by Drawmer, and for all your pro audio needs, please do check us out on the web at frontendaudio.com. Thank you.